On today's show, our NBA analyst Noor Zainab joins me to talk some WNBA Finals and preview Game 4 between Aces Sun. We then discuss the Robert Sarver situation in the NBA and WNBA and what standard owners should be held accountable to. Later, I sit down with Sara Poraria to talk about the legend Roger Federer retiring and his importance to the sport of tennis. Courts in session. Welcome into Parleh Studios. This is Court Time with Crina Mustafa. I'm Crina Mustafa, and to start the show off today, I'm joined by our NBA analyst and Aces bandwagoner, Noor Zainab. And Noor, I know we thought we were going to start the show off today with an Aces championship, but Connecticut had other plans at home. Props to them. It was a very impressive win over the Aces. And, let's start with them because there was a couple of factors that went into that giant win for the Sun. Yeah. Alyssa Thomas being one of them. She recorded a triple-double, which is the first in WNBA Finals history, which is kind of a crazy stat to think about.
Seriously, yeah, absolutely. You would think that with so much talent that's out there, with so much talent that actually makes the WNBA Finals, you would find someone that has already kind of gotten that level of milestone. And I was like, are my eyes deceiving me? That's the first ever we've seen. But that goes to her greatness, right? Like Alyssa Thomas took the Suns on her back, and the sun rose yesterday.
Yeah, see, I love it. I love that we're using the puns because I like to say the sun wasn't ready to set yet.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. And then along with Jonquel Jones, who had an MVP-like performance again, and it's nice to see because she was kind of struggling up until now in the playoffs. And so it's nice to see her playing well again. And then an amazing offensive game from DeWanna Bonner, who had 18 points. And I think just that overall contribution from all of these Sun players and their most important players as well is what was able, to not be eliminated on home court. Yep. And so what have you thought of their physicality? Because that was going to be a huge key for them going into this series as well, particularly in Game 3.
For sure. And I think with the Suns too, they've done this before, right? Like they've been on the verge of elimination against Dallas, against Chicago, but they came back. And in this situation too, I was like, it seems kind of too good to be true. Like the Aces have piled up 2 wins, fantastic, great. But like going into Connecticut, that's going to be a tough place to go and get a win. And they did just that. They had 6 players in double digits. Everybody came out and had a great game. But it wasn't just, I want to say, their impact offensively. It was them defensively, holding the Aces, A'ja Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, to 76 points in an entire game. Game 3 of the WNBA Finals. That to me is insane. So I think that shows you everything. They came down, they were ready, they knew that this is the game that they have to take. And all the power to them. I think, if anything, the Aces must be a little bit shook and scared right now. Getting 2 wins in, you feel a bit confident. You're thinking that, okay, I just need to get 1 more. But the problem is, when you give that side even a little bit of momentum, you're kind of losing it, right? Now you no longer can feel that level of confidence anymore. So I'm a little bit scared as an Aces fan, but at the same time, I'm just like, this is great basketball. Not the blowouts, but even, just extend the whole thing. That's great.
Yeah, and we're seeing why the Sun are in the finals in the first place. Yeah. The same thing happened against Chicago, where you're thinking the defending champs are going to take this, but they gave that bit of hope to the Connecticut Sun, and the Sun were able to capitalize on that. And It really only takes something like a bad quarter or a bad performance from one of your players for things to completely change. And so the Aces are going to respond. We know that. There is going to be a Game 4. It will be in Connecticut again. Yeah. How do you think they're going to respond?
Good. Better. They better come out gun swinging. I think the thing with them right now as well is A'ja Wilson will always come out and be the MVP. She's always going to be one of the best players on the court. It's just her height too, right? She's just a talented individual to begin with. God gave her the talent that we couldn't have ever gotten, I guess. So she is always going to be that main factor for the Aces. But I think, and what I realized too is obviously Kelsey Plum, she's had the most amazing regular season. She was the most consistent Aces when it came to that. But in the playoffs, we haven't really seen that Kelsey Plum just yet. But even beyond that, I think that the X factor for the Aces, and I sound like a broken clock, but it's Chelsea Gray. And if you've watched their games in the past, whenever Chelsea Gray lets herself have an offensive game and she's letting herself have the ball, go shoot, do whatever she has to do, you see the dynamic of the Aces change entirely, because now the offense is flowing through her. But if she thinks that I don't trust this one to get the ball, she'll go and do it herself. And it'll go in, right? And we talked about that too, where it was like she only had 11 points last game. She had no points second half of the quarter. So sorry, second half of the last game at all. So in my head, I'm just thinking it's that level of aggressiveness that they might just be missing from her. And again, it's the point guard effect, right? When you have a really solid point guard that can go get their own shots, but also get the team going, like as amazing as she has been, I'll say she's allowed to have one night off, like take that one in Connecticut, I don't know, go out, have a bar. Is there anything to do in Connecticut that night? I don't know if she went
Well, I
out to do
mean, the
anything.
arena's in a casino. So
I mean, okay, so you just exit and you go and you drink your pain away, to 10 feet after the game. But I think she really is going to be the factor. But like knowing her, she's going to come out crazy for the next game. She's not going to look at one game and think to herself, let herself feel in that level of like, just make herself feel despaired even more. I think she's going to use that as motivation for herself and for her teammates and come back just completely ready to knock everything down. But I don't know if they win on Sunday or if they win in game 5. Not because I don't trust them, but in my head, I'm like, do you want to win at home? Or do you
well, here's the thing. Do you want them to get the chance to the Connecticut Sun to win on their home court? Like, that would be a little bit anticlimactic. I mean, the crowds, like, in both places have been really loud and super, like, the first 2 Aces games were completely sold out. And even in the Sun Arena, it wasn't sold out, but it was loud in there.
Yeah, oh my goodness. And I think even the regular season, whenever the Aces were playing, it was like everybody's out there, everyone's accounted for, all the cheers are taken, people are there in their jerseys. And next year we will have even more of an audience, I feel like, for these finals because it's growing crazy.
100%. And so do you have an official prediction? Are the Aces going to win on Sunday? We got to hear it.
Yes. Only because, and I only say this because I think, like you mentioned, losing that game 4 is not going to end well for game 5 because Suns have done this before. They have come back from elimination. They've come back from feeling like that's it, they're done. So to give them one more game where the slates are now tied, I don't want to be in that position. I care about my mental health. I should care about yours too. So I'm thinking Sunday is going to be the final one. We're going to see Becky Hammon, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum hold up that trophy and knock on wood.
Knock everywhere in the studio. Okay. 100%. I do agree with you. I think the Aces are going to take it on Sunday. I think they're going to show why they've been the top contenders. Like you said, like they're allowed to have a game where, it shows that they're human. Things struggle. Like it wasn't going to be a perfect series, even though it was wishful thinking that they were going to sweep the Sun. But yeah, don't get your brooms out. Put them away. Sunday's going to be game 4. I'm super excited for it. But let's move on to a more serious topic now, which is still within the WNBA realm, but more also as well in the NBA. Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury majority owner Robert Sarver, who was fined $10 million and suspended for 1 year after an investigation into racist and misogynistic remarks. I'm going to take this exact quote from the report. He repeated the N-word when recounting the statements of others at least 5 times and engaged in instances of inequitable conduct towards female employees, made many sex-related comments in the workplace, made inappropriate comments about the physical appearance of female employees and other women, and on several occasions engaged in inappropriate physical conduct towards male employees. And we're going to play the video of Adam Silver being asked about Sarver's punishment and his response, which he later attempted to do damage control to.
I think everybody in this room would agree that if any of us had said or done even a small percentage of the things that Robert Sarver has been shown to have said and done, we would be fired. And I assume that anybody working at Olympic Tower, if they had done even a percentage of that, would be fired. And anybody who worked for any of your 30 teams would easily be fired. Why would there be a different standard? And understanding the complications of removing an owner, why should there be a different standard for the owner of an NBA team than there would be for everybody who works in this league?
Fair question. I don't say, you alluded to it, Howard, that there are particular rights here of someone who owns an NBA team as opposed to somebody who's an employee. The equivalent of a $10 million fine and a 1-year suspension, I don't know how to measure that against a job, but I have certain authority by virtue of this organization, and that's what I exercised. I don't have the right to take away his team. I don't want to rest on that neat legal point because, of course, there could be a process to take away someone's team in this league. It's very involved. And I ultimately made the decision that it didn't rise to that level. But to me, the consequences are severe here.
All right. So essentially, it looked like the league didn't want to get into a legal battle with Robert Sarver, which, and therefore he still gets to keep the team. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that, because like we saw, Adam Silver being asked, why are owners being held to a different standard than a regular employee in the NBA?
Money talks. And I think that's just what we've learned in life, not just the league and anywhere else. It's just if you're in a position to have a lot of wealth and power, you can be the worst person and people will make excuses for you. And in this case, he has been doing this, Crina, for years, decades. This goes back to when he first went to the Suns and he owned them. He had partial ownership with them, 2004. And I believe it was a meeting with Amari Stoudemire, as well as it was about to be with Steve Nash. It was about to be their free agency pitch. And the personality of that conversation, according to the players that were involved in that, who happened to be black, who happened to be white, all of them involved, said that from Robert Sarver's aspect of everything, it seemed like there was a lot of racial insensitivity. And this was 2004. Beyond that, afterwards, he ended up getting Earl Watson on the roster. He had him coaching. When Earl Watson was there, I think this was a game against Golden State, and the Suns were playing them. Got beat by Golden State. They come back and Robert Sarver enters the locker room and he says, why can Draymond Green say the N-word but I can't say it? He's saying it in the locker room like 5-6 times, but then when he's questioned by Earl Watson to be like, you can't say this. This is not like, what are you doing, dude? He's like, why can Draymond Green say it, but I can't say it? Mm-hmm. So there's always been instances of him being just a downright racist. Beyond that, he's also just been sexist. Beyond that, he's also just not a good person. He's terrible to be around. There's been so many. How many employees were interviewed with the NBA? About 320. Beyond, like I think last year, ESPN conducted their own investigation into Robert Sarver. They interviewed about 80 employees, current and former, and every single one had one thing to say. You can't tell me anything he said that must be sexist, racist, or just wrong, plain wrong, and I would be like, I believe it. Yeah. I believe he said it. So if that's the nature of things that has been, if that's what people expect from you, that have been around you for how many years, nothing you say in the public eye for 2 seconds can take our mind off of the person that you really are. And at that point, it's not just about Robert Sarver. It's about what does he represent? If he's part of a team, is he letting other people that have the same type of thoughts think it's okay to be like this? Because once he's being called out, all his buddies, the chairman, his co-founders, his co-presidents, the league executives are coming out saying that, oh, he's a great guy. Like, he's haven't done anything wrong. Like, he might have done this here and there, but he's also has this great history. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If you make people feel uncomfortable in a workplace setting, the NBA and the WNBA, he owns the WNBA as well, is a space for women of color, men of color, people of color, and just minorities to be there and to feel like they belong, they feel included. And he hasn't done anything to be a part of that community. So for me, it's not about a 1-year suspension. It's about when is he leaving? Yeah. Why is he a part of these teams anymore? Why is he even allowed to be in the arena? Yeah. So, sorry, that's my tangent. And I think the league needs to do a lot better. Adam Silver has to do a lot better. And we can't be sitting here and thinking this is going to be another thing we sweep under the rug, because things have to be done.
Mm-hmm. And, I think one thing that really stuck out to me about that video with Adam Silver is that he was talking about his punishment, and he was saying, I don't think you can even compare it to like an employer. Like, he doesn't know how to measure that stuff. And to me, that was so weird because, yeah, exactly. I was like, it seems like you're just like hopping around the bush a little bit,
Adam Silver is out with his cloak, flying in the wind, taking all the bullets in front of him right now. All the owners that are sitting around their table, saying whatever words they want to say while they're eating and sipping their tea. Adam Silver is around them with his cloak. No one can touch it, but he will get made fun of no matter what. So it's like, are you comfortable being the face of someone that defends just stuff like this? I don't know. I think it's a very I don't even think it's a gray area. I think it's very black and white. Just get rid of this guy. How
Yeah.
are you going to be a part of a league, of an organization that has women, that has people of color, and you're gonna employ someone who's racist and sexist?
100%. And I like
Simple as
that
that.
point. Yeah, I like the point you make that he owns a WNBA team as well. So it's like you have men, you have women, like you cannot have this kind of environment. And I
Yeah.
think it's worth opening up a discussion about other owners in the league, in both the NBA and the
Absolutely.
WNBA, because
Yeah.
I am sure there are like many more toxic environments like this one. And so I'm kind of wondering like what can be done in terms of like evaluating these other owners.
You gotta wonder too, right? Like the issue is when you think about problems like this, we're so minuscule compared to everything that we don't even really know what's happening and what's taking place, because it's all just it's I sound like a broken record again, but it's all just the rich white men that can do whatever they want to. And I think to have any deeper change, any lasting change, it has to start at the very top. You got to cut the snake's head off. You can't start at the bottom of the barrel and try to work your way up. I mean, we've been trying that, right? And what happens? If an employee does something, sure, they're fired off the bat. But when an owner does something, we have to stand and be like, that's okay, it's no problem at all. So I think that has to be the forefront. It's to how to get to the head of the snake, which is, Adam Silver and all his buddies. And I'm not really sure, honestly, like if I'm being dead honest, I'm not sure what the protocol is, but I think us having these conversations, us being loud about it, us making sure that our uncomfort is heard amongst everybody else is the least we can do.
Yeah, and you've seen NBA players as well speak out. You saw Chris Paul,
Amazing, yeah.
LeBron James, who's
Yeah.
like always speaking out about issues like this. And so I think it's important that they spoke out because they have power too, much more power than we do.
Exactly, yeah.
So hopefully something can start from there. We've had the NBA, the Players Association president speak out as well. So it's just hopefully there can be enough pressure put on that something starts to
Absolutely.
change. And I think, yeah, you and I both agree that this guy needs to be out of
Yeah,
the league.
no,
Like,
for sure, easily. Like you should not be breathing near an arena, not even in the parking lot.
yeah, like
Go
there's
somewhere else.
there's no place for that in sports. And if the NBA loves to preach that things are bigger than basketball, but then when it actually comes to those things, it's like silence. Exactly. Money talks.
Money makes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so hopefully it's a really tough situation. I think you're right. What we can do is speak about it and bring attention to it and keep applying pressure because really what else can we do, right? And
Absolutely,
as
yeah.
long as we have those higher up that are kind of trying to make things happen, then hopefully it does, because this situation, I just feel for like everybody involved. Like it must be so uncomfortable and just the trauma.
100%. It's just like if you think about the optics, right? NBA is in a league that has a lot of people of color. WNBA is a league that has women and women of color. Why would you appoint someone who's a racist and a sexist? Just, it's as simple as that. I feel like it's not a rainbow. There's no like who, what, where. It's just black and white. You don't appoint somebody like that. You keep them far away to save the nature of the game and to keep it beautiful,
Yeah. 100%. Totally agree. Thank you for joining me today, Noor. Make sure you're following her on all
please.
social media platforms. And coming up next, we'll have tennis with Sara Poraria. All right, I'm joined by my co-host of Game Set Bet, Sara Poraria, and we have a little bit of a bittersweet thing to talk about today, and that is Roger Federer's retirement, which we both knew it was coming. But what was your initial reaction when you heard the official statement?
We definitely both knew it was coming, but I think because he's kind of, been under the radar, he's been injured, we haven't seen him, in a Grand Slam, in a tournament in so long that it's not that you forgot, but, you weren't thinking of him. Like he wasn't, at the front of your brain with all these other players that are still playing, like even Rafa and Djokovic, even though they haven't been consistent, they've still been, showing up. So it did still take me by surprise just because I was like, oh my God, Federer all of a sudden. And it was really sad, honestly.
I know. I was like, we had Serena like a couple weeks ago. We said goodbye to her, and not even a month later, and we have to say goodbye to Roger now. So it's just, yeah, it's been like really weird, a weird feeling. And he was so influential to the sport. I mean, you talk about that big three, like you just mentioned, Novak, Rafa, and Roger. Like they were the big three. They were the guys who had all those rivalries on the court. And I know you have a special connection to Rafa, so we'll talk about those two specifically because they were rivals on the court, but they were best friends in real life. So what was that like for you watching them like while we were growing up?
I don't think anything, at least for my generation, will replace the Federer-Nadal rivalry and those matches. They were some of the best tennis matches ever. And it was just, both players were actually so well loved by everyone, but they were completely different still.
Yeah.
And also their playing style was completely different. So when we saw prime Federer versus prime Nadal, it was just every tennis fan's dream because the matches were incredible, full of talent, full of energy. And even though I'm a Rafa fan and I think he's the best tennis player ever, if Roger ever beat him, I was still like, yeah, I'm kind of okay with this because I have such a respect for him. And I think both kind of fan bases felt that. There was no like hate, and it was like, yeah, I would have liked to see Federer or Nadal win more, but if the other one, it was still like, there was, like you said, they were best friends. There was so much love around them, and I really will miss having them play together.
I know. I was just telling like one of our coworkers off camera because I was like, if there was one match that I wish I could have been in person to see, it was that 2008 Wimbledon final between Rafa and Roger. Like that is somewhere. Like if you were there, my God, that is a memory to last a lifetime. And you know, just not being able to see stuff like that anymore, it makes me a little bit sad that like we're all growing up and you know stars are kind of fading out, but. You know, we're saying goodbye to these stars, but we have some young guns coming in, you know? We have your boy, Carlitos. I know, you're so excited to talk about him.
I know, because I haven't seen you actually since he's won the U.S. Open. So, yeah, it is really exciting. And I do see a lot of Nadal in him, which is really nice. But, yeah, it's weird. We're kind of going through that change where we are, like you said, we've just lost Serena, and now Federer announces his retirement. We know Rafa doesn't have that much longer. And Djokovic might have, you know, a couple more years, but he's still on, you know, the other side of his career at this point. So we really are seeing a lot of change in the sport. You mentioned off camera, actually, we spoke about Simona Halep as well. She's done for the season. So it's just, I think it's all sports though, you know, as well. Like everyone that we grew up watching is now getting to that age of retirement. And it's exciting for the new stars. It definitely is, because now we're like, okay, these guys are really going. We're really at that point. But now watching them, who's replacing them? Who's going to be the next big thing? What to look out for? So
yeah, I think that makes the transition a little bit easier because I feel like if we didn't have these like exciting young players, it would just be a bit of like a bummer overall. But you know, seeing like players like Carlitos, seeing players like Coco Gauff makes me really, really happy. And that's why I wanted to ask you too, like, who are some of these young players that you want to keep your eye on?
I was gonna say Coco Gauff actually, for the females at least. She's been incredible. We saw her. I think it was in the quarters in the U.S. Open, and she went to the finals at Roland Garros. And she's done so well. She's such a fighter on the court. She is 18 years old.
I know.
Like, I forget that she is that young because she is so talented and she has such a good head on her shoulders that I feel like there's a maturity with her that I wouldn't expect from an 18-year-old. But definitely Coco. Of course, Carlitos. For Canada, Felix, it has to be him. He's been great this year so far. And, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting, but there is still like, okay, I now have to readjust and like focus on these guys because you know we are losing our OGs. You know, before James was saying like, remember Sampras and all that. I was like, James, you're dating yourself.
I know. I feel like I should probably have him on and ask him how he felt like during that time because now we're kind of experiencing that, you know, with all these players going. And I know I'm just dreading the day that Simona Halep hangs up her racket.
You will not be well.
I will not. I'm going to need to take like a week off from everything. It's going to be, because I don't even have like a young Romanian to like watch out for. There's like some. There's like Jacqueline Christian is one, but she's not still at the level that like Carlitos is at or Coco's at. So, you know, hopefully like
you have a lot that do play the sport though, so maybe one will all of a sudden emerge.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. But yeah, I'm very excited to see these young stars continue to pop up, and I'll be tuning into the Laver Cup to watch Roger Federer because I am going to cry when he plays his last match.
It's such an exciting event because we know it's his last, but I'm also like so nervous going into it because I know I'm going to be just as sad. And you know what? When we saw Serena, because we were actually both at the National Bank Open when Serena said her farewell to Canada and Toronto, I was so emotional there because she was in tears because
Yeah.
the fans were giving her so much. So I'm just thinking about the same thing with Roger. And I just hope for his sake he has a good tournament, you know, plays well, wins something maybe, you know. But yeah, I'm just hoping he has like a really kind of nice goodbye because I mean, and you know he will though, right? Because he's
Yeah.
so well loved, but it will be really difficult, I think, to watch. It's one of those moments where you're like, you look back on it 10 years later and you're like, I remember where I was when Roger Federer played his last game.
I know. Oh,
Just the fact that those words came out of my mouth, I'm a little like.
it's getting very emotional in here, but you know what? I think we'll stop it there. That's all for today before we start crying on camera. Thank you for spending time on the court with us, and make sure to tune into the WNBA Finals this weekend as the Aces try to win their first ever championship. I've been your host, Crina Mustafa, and thanks for joining us on Court Time with Crina Mustafa.